All right, how's everybody doing today? It is Thursday. I want to go ahead and get into this video. Those of you guys who tune in late, just go back and watch the replay. As for those who are coming on after the video has streamed live and are watching the replay, you'll be able to get right into the information. So I wanted to go over a few things today. Now, let me just lay out, first of all, the purpose for the topic of this video, okay? Many people are, interpreting the things that I'm posting to mean that I am pro Bill Gates. And so let me just lay it out for you, for those of you all who actually would like to know where I stand, rather than presume where I stand. Where I actually stand is I'm pro anyone until they give me a reason to not be. The scripture says that love believes all things. The way that interprets is not that it is naive, not that it, falls prey to everything that comes along, but rather that it gives people the benefit of the doubt by default. It gives people the benefit of the doubt by default. Hello, Maya. God bless you. Thanks for commenting. So if love gives people the benefit of the doubt by default, and we who are operating in love are looking upon a matter to judge it, then we have to look at information pertaining to individuals that are being promoted as suspicious. We have to look at it from an unbiased standpoint and really search a matter out for ourselves. And so I've kind of been on this, path concerning the Bill Gates conspiracies. Now, my disclaimer is that I'm walking in love and that I am continuing to be open to the fact that Bill Gates is a person that has evil potentials. I'm open to that. But in my openness to that, I'm also open to the fact that I have to see evidence of that fact. And so my decision concerning Bill Gates has not been made up, but rather the way that I approach information has been made up. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you all through a journey with me. We're going to do it together to really assess all of these things that are on the table currently, these things that are circulating concerning Bill Gates, the rumors, the conspiracy theories, whatever you want to call them, the claims, and even and especially the facts, okay? Because this has been my biggest grievance throughout this whole process, is that people are promoting their presumptions, suspicions, and even their own spins on certain things as if they are the facts themselves, and they are not. They're actually their presumptions based upon certain details. Let me give you an example, okay? Some people find it very suspicious that Bill Gates works with pharmaceutical companies, vaccine companies. Like, I think this has been a big surprise to a lot of people because he's not really known about as a vaccine guy. He's known about as a Microsoft guy. But his work has been going on for a long time. And what's interesting is that a lot of these conspiracy theories, and we're just going to call them that for the sake of that, because that's not necessarily a biased term. That term can be used on both sides of the fence. Now, a lot of these conspiracy theories are not new. And that's one of the things I wanted to point out. We're going to see some of that today as we walk through some of these details or facts. Now, if it ever comes out, truth always trumps facts. Absolutely. So what's actually happening is the people that are commenting, we're streaming this on YouTube and on Facebook, and the people that are commenting may not come up on the screen. Those are just, the comments that I want to display. And they may not have much relevance, but I just like to honor people as well. And just it makes for a much more interactive meeting as well. Now, as far as, folks, listen, we have got to lay, I'm telling you, humility is such an essential component in life itself. I put a post on Facebook last night, and I basically said, we have a bunch of hourly employees trying to tell our government how to do its job because they Googled the situation. Listen, I'm not against hourly employees, but this is a common thing that we see in life, and it's not new. This has been around the block for a long time. You got people, I've been an hourly employee. For many years of my life, I was an hourly employee, especially during the times when I was, living a life before Christ, where I was addicted to drugs and different things like that. I spent much of my life in these circles. And, people who have mindsets that actually keep them in those positions for life sometimes. It's no different than in the ministry when you have the people always casting judgments against the pastor. And then they wonder why God never gives them a position to lead people or groups of people. And it's because, there are certain tools that are represented in the spiritual realm, in the kingdom of heaven, that cause growth and promotion and increase. And, God says he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. He who can be faithful with little can be faithful with much. We have to be trustworthy people, folks. And we're not going to get anywhere accusing everybody and thinking we know it all. And it's not an uncommon mentality. This is a very common mentality. But the problem is because people refuse to get delivered of this mentality, they stay in those lesser levels of life without being able to achieve the life that they actually want for themselves and the life that God wants them to have. We have to be more honorable than we are cutting. We have to be more considerate than we are slandering. We have to be more in love than we are in suspicion. See, discernment as a spiritual gift is a heavenly gift. Suspicion as a spiritual gift is a demonic gift. It's an evil gift. It's an aspect of the fallen nature of humanity. So I just want to say that, what I mean by the whole hourly employees posting or telling the government how to do their job because they Googled a matter is really like, people are literally, man, we've got protests happening right now. Protests because people have heard the news reports and the circulations of, we've got medicines coming out. We've already got cures for the coronavirus. So why are we all still sitting on our butts? And people are becoming impatient because they don't necessarily know all the details. Now, this is a completely different matter. And I want to be, objective in my approach. And I also want to say, folks, that there could still be very real corruption concerning that. But folks, what us complaining from this position where we have nothing to do with that realm of responsibility because we have not been entrusted, or otherwise we would be in that platform. We just need to pray and ask God to sort it all out and be patient in the meantime. People are protesting right now. These things could turn into riots because of the emotional response that the masses are having during this pandemic, folks. So I want everybody to just take a deep breath, breathe and pray. And let's come together even now before the Lord and say, God, would you give us a sense of peace? Calm every storm that is not of you, and breathe life and hope, deliverance and exposure onto the areas that need it, Father God. Expose the areas not according to Q, not according to, the conspiracy theorists, but rather according to the way that you see it, the most perfect judge. The most perfect judge. And Lord, breathe upon each and every person right now that's watching this live stream or the replay, that they would receive a peace and a trust and the ability to humble themselves and to really ask you to come into these situations and shed your light according to the way you see it, Father. And give us all peace during this time. Help us not to be emotionally reactive and have knee-jerk reactions concerning these times. Let us not be circulating things. Guys, do you know how dangerous it is sometimes to circulate? Now listen, again, if you listen to the beginning of my video, I am not telling you to trust or distrust Bill Gates. I'm about to lead you through some information to show you how to look at it completely different than what many people are promoting, but also we're going to go to the horse's mouth. We're going to go to the sources that people are citing, which is crazy because so many people are citing what others are saying happened about a situation. But I'm going to actually show you an article today, specifically, as well as several others, that actually came from the individuals themselves that are being referred to or mentioned in these conspiracy theories. Rather than what others are saying about what happened with them, you're going to hear what they tell you what happened with them. And so I want you to understand that if we don't all calm down as a people, if we don't all stop circulating our own spins about subject matters as if they are fact, we could be responsible for causing riots in this country. We have a huge issue at hand, and the more people are being told to sit down and just be patient and wait this thing out, the more restless they're getting because we seem to know better than our government. Now listen, I'm not saying there could not be intelligence amongst the people, but I'm saying that this is not going to promote necessarily the right things unless we're circulating the information as points to ponder or things to consider. And this is hopefully the way that I'm presenting this information to you all, because I feel like this is the right way to promote the information. Not as, hey guys, let me show you the facts, but rather, let me show you, well, forgive me. I'm not going to be showing you the spin connected to the facts, but I'm actually going to be showing you the facts themselves. Now, here's the deal. One of the things I want to first address is one of the newest conspiracy theories that I've heard. Now, we're going to get into some several other ones, okay? But what's crazy is as I listen to the people's complaints and grievances and accusations concerning Bill Gates, I begin to go online and I begin to search from both sides. And I see what people are saying on the conspiracy theory end, and I'm like, all right, well, now let's validate that. And so then I go and I begin to do research, trying to get information that is more closer to home, more closer to the situation, more, involved with the people actually, that might have closer connections or closer ties. Not just a person that's talking about a person that happened to talk about a person that mentioned something about a certain matter. And then, we learned this in kindergarten, folks, where you whisper to one kid and it goes down the pike and it comes back. And when they announce it at the very end, it's completely different. It's completely different than what you originally whispered, because that's what happens. And so there is a lot of hysteria, and it is due to fear and the unknown. And people don't realize a lot of times what they're manifesting. So exactly, that's Tiffany's stance, something to look into and research for yourself. It truly is. But folks, if you find some opposing, information concerning the things that people are posting, it's okay to share it, because, people, we need to be all challenged, folks. We need to be challenged. Now, one of the latest things that I want to point out to you folks is that, did you hear that Bill Gates was responsible for paralyzing millions of children in the country of India, and the president or the prime minister of India severed ties with Bill Gates personally, because he did not want any more of his evil agenda? And so let's go to that right now. Oh, which one is it? Forgive me, folks. I got to find out. This doesn't always. Is it that one? No. How about this one? No. How about that one? I don't know. Yep, there it is. All right. So this is an article by indiatoday.in. Okay, this is directly from the country of India. Much ado over vaccines. This was reported back in 2017. All right, this is old information, and it's not a new conspiracy theory. That's just recirculating. And so what ends up happening is, where's the article? I guess I skipped over it. Why is this? Oh, here we go. Read more. There we go. So on Wednesday, February 7th, conspiracy theorists had a field day when a report emerged. Center shuts health mission gate on Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. At the heart of it was a big money, big pharma, big corruption plot, how the biggest philanthropic organization in the world was influencing India's vaccination strategy to the advantage of global pharma giants. Now, again, as I mentioned to you folks, this is not a new conspiracy theory. This is old. That is just now recirculating. And so as we read this conspiracy theory, we then begin to see that here are some of the facts that I want to point out from the article. All right. The article itself testifies that back in 2017, the conspiracy theories had begun circulating that cited the Prime Minister of India himself cutting ties with Gates because of his vaccine damage. Hang on. The article, I wrote this. I'm trying to read it to you. I'm just recapping my take on the article. It testifies that back in 2017, the conspiracy theories that began circulating that cited the Prime Minister of India himself cut ties with Gates because of his vaccine damage could not be further from the truth, and that they actually still continue their relationship today. Now, what I like about the posting these articles is that you can actually look it up for yourself. Look at the link, type it into Google search, indiatoday.in, health story, 2017-0306. You can punch in a lot of those keywords to Google, and chances are you'll end up finding the story. All right? Now, here's what it also says in the story. Nachikit Moore, let me see if this is actually in the article. You can read it with me. It's a long article, and I took some excerpts from it. But anyway, here, I'll read it to you myself. It says, Nachikit Moore, the country director of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in India, was surprised when the news item came out that BMGF is driving international pharma is complete nonsense. Of course, right? That's from the new vaccines introduced successfully by the government are local vaccines. They're developed by and in India. They're created by India. They're developed by India. It was the government of India that decided to introduce a number of new vaccines into this country. The NTAGI, the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, is run by the government, owned by the government, financed by the government, and it has it doesn't have a relationship with anyone. So the Gates Foundation didn't even fund the India vaccines, didn't even produce them, didn't even create them. And so these are excerpts from the article that we can see. Hang on, let me go back. It's a really long article, but let's just read a little bit of it together. The 23 members of the country's highest advisory committee, now this is the Indian one, the National Immunization Technology Advisory Group, NTAGI, scratched their heads in bewilderment against this conspiracy theory. And the Union Ministry for Health, with three of its senior-most bureaucrats co-chairing the NTAGI, kicked into overdrive the vaccination strategy. After all, it was one of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's flagship projects. On the very next day, on February 8th, a press note was released that the reports were inaccurate and misleading, that there was no financial link between NTAGI and BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that the latter continued to collaborate and support this ministry, the latter being Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. If you can't see that, it's right there. So basically saying that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation continue to support the work. The news comes at a time when India is trying to take its basket of free vaccines for children towards the international standard after years of remaining statistic. The Prime Minister himself has been seeking support from Bill Gates, technocrat, philanthropist, and the world's wealthiest man for his ambitious universal immunization program. 4 new vaccines have been rolled out across the country this year, recommended by the NTAGI with the product support of Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, an international nonprofit that is backed by Gates that works to ensure affordable access to essential vaccines. Hang on, I'm going to keep going. I don't necessarily want to read the whole article. There's one part in here where it says that the board, or the where is it? The 23 members of the country's highest advisory board, the NTAGI, no, that's not it. It basically said that they are comprised of, it's a great article, guys. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and just include this in the comments here. I believe that we can have you all read it. All right, there you go. So I just included it in the comments. Now, I swear I had another excerpt from this article copied, but I can't find it. So I apologize, but I'm going to keep scrolling. Dun, 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 dun. Mm-hmm. What's crazy is I'm gonna get to some closing arguments from this, okay? In just a minute, as I just glance over. All right. So one of the things that I want to point out, this is an India article, all right? An internal country article that I found on this matter, all right? So one of the things that I want to point out is that if there was millions of children paralyzed from a vaccine that these conspiracy theorists claim Bill Gates made, then why is the government taking responsibility for having made the vaccine and saying, no, the Gates Foundation had nothing to do with the production of our vaccinations, right? They had nothing to do with the creation of them. They had nothing to do with the implementation of them. They had nothing to do with the production of them. And that we have not, even severed ties, that we still continue to work together, so to speak. It's just crazy to me how when you go to the same conspiracy theory being brought up back in 2017, it was debunked internally within the country of India itself. All right, that's first and foremost. So the second conspiracy theory that I want to address is that Bill Gates predicted the coronavirus outbreak in a mocked, staged example, right? We've heard this. If you've been around, you've heard this. Bill Gates predicted the coronavirus outbreak. I read one article that says he did this in 2018. I read another article that says he did this again in October, just a few months before the actual coronavirus outbreak. Now, here's what's interesting. At face value, you hear, now this is true, by the way. At face value, you hear that at face value, you hear that he did this and even used coronavirus as an example. And so, oh my gosh, it's got to be him that released this when he tried to warn us about it just 3 months before and even used the name coronavirus, right? Well, let's read it. And I'm going to post these articles every step of the way. All right? Bam, right there. Euronews.com. Okay, EuropeanNews.com, right? In the article, it says coronavirus as a word, which he used in these mock pandemic scenarios, refers to a whole family of viruses, including multiple recent outbreaks that we've had in recent years. This includes the SARS outbreak in 2003 and the MERS outbreak in 2013. And of course, the current COVID-19 of 2019-2020. So coronavirus itself, we've already had multiple outbreaks of coronaviruses that were deemed as viral outbreaks. The SARS was a coronavirus. The MERS is a coronavirus. But see, because this one is being called coronavirus, which the other ones weren't necessarily, that wasn't the popular term for it. Actually, it's COVID-19. See, people don't know this stuff. So they don't realize that that coronavirus is a popular strand. It would be no different than if Bill Gates did a mock pandemic scenario where he used the flu or influenza as an example, because it is a common thing. Remember the swine flu? Another example. So the term coronavirus being used is not a far-fetched understanding. But people, because they don't know these facts, because they don't know these details, they think surely Bill Gates is behind it because he tried to tell us that we couldn't handle a coronavirus outbreak, and now we have one just a couple of years and just a couple of months later in two different scenarios. Well, it's because we had already had several, folks, several. All right. Here's another one. Bill Gates created the coronavirus and has it patented. All right. My. Bill Gates created the coronavirus and even patented the coronavirus. As I bring up each topic, I'm posting the comments, folks, because I'm telling you, I want you guys, these are multiple articles that I found on this matter. All right, I want you guys to be able to have them. Now, Bill Gates created and patented the coronavirus, all right? So, the interesting thing about these articles is that they describe, number one, the Pirbright Institute, which is funded by Bill Gates. It was granted a patent in 2018, which covers the development of an attenuated or weakened form of the coronavirus that could potentially be used as a vaccine to prevent respiratory diseases in birds, including IBV and other animals. Okay, the Pirbright Institute, which is partially funded by Gates, does hold a patent for coronavirus that primarily affects chickens. It does not hold a patent on any part of the novel coronavirus causing the current COVID-19 pandemic. Now, they had been studying, let me keep going. Pirbright does not hold any patents on parts or of the complete genome of the SARS-CoV-2 beta coronavirus, which includes the COVID-19 under that umbrella of coronaviruses. It does not hold any patents on parts or even of the complete genome of that virus. No publicly available patents for genetic sequences of the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus has been issued anywhere in the world. Pirbright has not carried out research on human coronaviruses, only for coronavirus vaccines for livestock. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has provided 2 grants to Pirbright, once in November 2013 for research into diseases affecting livestock, and again in June of 2016 for research into a universal flu vaccine. The Gates Foundation has not funded the development of Pirbright's coronavirus vaccine, even for the livestock. All right? It never even funded the coronavirus vaccine, even for livestock. Now, a couple things I want to point out. First of all, it's not uncommon for a vaccine manufacturer to patent a virus. It's not uncommon. That's what's crazy about this. It is not uncommon for a vaccine manufacturer to patent a virus strand. And if it even did, it would not be able to utilize that patent if it ended up becoming an outbreak or a pandemic. Interesting information. Now, another thing that I want to point out is that, okay, let me go to this one. Another conspiracy theory is that Bill Gates staged or created the virus with the intent to be in position at the time that it was released in order to be perfectly positioned to deploy his evil global agenda. Okay? Now, if Bill Gates staged or created the virus with the intent to be in position to release his global agenda, then we've got a couple things that I want to point out. In a recent video, when Bill Gates was describing, and we're actually going to watch that video clip in a little bit, played it on an earlier broadcast. If he had this evil scenario to be in position when this thing was released, then why is it that Israel and other vaccine manufacturers have announced that they can have a vaccine ready in 90 days? But Bill Gates said that they would not have one ready for 18 months because he wants to be sure that anything that he releases is tested proficiently for safety. So if Bill Gates, and this was all his idea, to be perfectly positioned and staged to be our saving grace of the hour, then why is he allowing other people to cut in on him and to produce vaccines earlier? It doesn't make any sense. China has already opened Wuhan, and whatever your thoughts are on whether they're telling the truth about their numbers or not is not necessarily the point. But Italy just removed their red light status, and other countries are beginning to bounce back as well. Don't you think that if Gates had a master plan to release this global agenda, that he would want to roll out his vaccine before anybody else does, even and especially before the others who are citing they're going to have it ready but in 90 days? And I remember Israel said 30 days ago that they would be ready in 90 days. And so we're already 30 days into it, which means we got only 60 days left. And oh my gosh, it just doesn't make sense to me. But it shouldn't make sense to you either. And if you can make sense of that and still have an evil agenda, then I would love to hear about it. But furthermore, even furthermore, don't you think that if this was his evil agenda, that he would already have a vaccine ready? I mean, come on, talk about being ill-prepared, folks. You know? Hello. You would think that he would be like, oh my gosh, our teams have been working feverishly, and you won't believe it. In just record time, they have come out with the saving grace for the whole world. Nope. It's not happening. He said 18 months, folks. He wouldn't even be comfortable with releasing something sooner than that. It doesn't make any sense. All right? We're going to keep going. But John, you don't understand. Bill Gates is pro-abortion. All right? He's pro-abortion. What does that have to do with his evil agenda that people are citing that he has to depopulate the world through vaccinations? Listen, folks, there are some very good-hearted people that just don't have the revelation yet about abortion being bad because they don't see life in the womb as being life yet, because they're, many of them are just not born again. And it doesn't mean that they have a purposeful motive to wipe out the planet with, killing off people that are already living after being born, because that's a completely separate topic, folks. And I do not agree with Bill Gates' position on abortion, but that does not blind me to the fact that I can't rightfully judge him on a completely different topic, because there are a lot of people that are pro-abortion in this earth, in this life, that are creating very beneficial things for humanity. And to think that just because somebody's pro-abortion means that they can't do any good thing in life, it's ridiculous. And so we have to be willing to separate facts and topics. Have you ever gotten into an argument with your spouse or a loved one, and you're trying to focus on a matter, on the topic at hand, and that person begins to go and rabbit trail onto every other thing and that possibly exists in the world today? You know, it's like, that is not going to help us deal with the situation at hand right now. In fact, you know, it complicates trying to figure out anything if you use that type of a method. And so don't allow the enemy to do that for you, you know. Now, here we go again. We're going to go to the next scenario. Bill Gates said, John, that he wants to depopulate the world through vaccines. Okay. Bill Gates said that he wants to depopulate the world through vaccines. All right, let's check that out. We did this on a previous video. This is the TED Talk where he said it. And people don't know what he meant by it, so they presume or assume. But we are going to watch it together, all right? So here we go. Where is the TED Talk? There it is. All right. Now I've got to get it on your screen. Here it is. Let's listen together.
Various economic changes that have even flattened it at all. So we have to go from rapidly rising.
All right. He's talking about global emissions, CO2 in the environment. This is in the entire talk that he's talking about. We watched this on a previous video. Global emissions, folks. All right. And so he literally brings in a 10-second clip of glancing over a matter, but he never describes how it would unfold. And so, but people are taking his 10-second, let's listen.
To falling and falling all the way to zero. This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication.
He's saying trying to get the CO2 level to zero. This is the title of the video, Innovating to Zero. He says the CO2 factor in our environment is comprised of four different influencing factors.
So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population.
Now, I just want to point out a quick fact, real quick. He's trying to get the CO2 levels in the world down. And he's saying we've got to be innovative to bring that CO2 level down and right to zero. And he's like, people are a factor. So if you're trying to bring the CO2 level down so that the environment is more beneficial for people, removing the people themselves would kind of defeat the purpose. All right. But we're going to listen.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we...
Now, this is important, folks. He said the world's population is about 6.8, I believe he said, and it's on its way to 9 billion. And he said, and we can really do a good job with the growth of the world's population by implementing vaccines and proper health care. Now, this is where everybody, again, just that little clip it is the only thing he mentions about vaccines related to controlling the world's population. And so because people just listen to that and they don't understand what that means, They just run right off the deep end with it and said, did you hear what Bill Gates said? He wants to annihilate the world's population, but with vaccines, which means he must know that they're bad, dangerous, and deadly. And so they propagate this as if it's coming from the horse's mouth, not even knowing what he really was saying. Now, I'm going to finish and make sure we're out of this whole scenario completely where he's done talking about this before I get on to the other video where we can actually hear him explain what he meant by that. But let's just finish it, okay?
See an increase of about 1.3. The second factor is the services we use. This encompasses everything: the food we eat, clothing, TV, heating. These are very good things. Getting rid of poverty means providing these services to almost everyone on the planet. And it's a great thing for this number to go up. In the rich world, perhaps the top 1 billion, we probably could cut back and use less. But every year, this number on average is going to go up. And so overall, that will more.
All right. So he's really done. He is seriously done about talking about vaccines. That is literally just how quick, folks, he glanced over that. That is just how quick he glanced over that. And I'm telling you right now, you can't walk into a conversation. You can't walk into a conversation and how many times have you done this? You've walked into a conversation and you're like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And they explain it and you're like, okay, because I swear that sounded so much different as me just kind of coming in the middle of that whole thing. This is exactly what people are doing. We know this to be a very real method of error in communication, in life, in normal everyday life. But all of a sudden, the conspiracy theories are going to skip over their awareness of that ability to have that error in this moment. And then they're just going to run with it hook, line, and sinker. You're not going to believe what so-and-so said. You're not going to believe what so-and-so said. This is called gossip, folks. And it's interesting. You have to go to the horse's mouth in order to annihilate gossip. You have to actually go to the subject and ask them, what did you really mean by that? Because at face value, it looks very different. And I need to hear from you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the horse's mouth, and we're all going to see that together, okay? Okay, here we go. A conversation with Bill Gates on population growth. It's a great video, and, you know, I'm glad that he brought it up because well, he didn't actually bring it up. Somebody else did. The reporter.
Let's go to a couple questions that we've actually received since we started the webcast. The first is on population growth. And the question is, one of our most pressing issues is population growth. How do you expect this to be addressed?
All right. So this is the same topic that he just mentioned on the last video of TED Talk, where people didn't understand how he could have possibly meant that you can improve population growth with vaccines unless he was literally talking about killing people. But let's see another twist on this.
Well, the population growth issue at the global level is not that daunting. That is...
Wait a minute. Folks, for a guy who has a master plan to annihilate humanity, to literally hear him say that it is not that daunting of an issue, why would somebody, if somebody really was Dr. Evil, so to speak, right, and he really wanted to just wipe out humanity, you would think if that was his motivation, that he would have to think that it was a pretty big issue. And he literally just confessed out of his own mouth that it's not that daunting of an issue. Let's just hear that again.
Population growth issue at the global level is not that daunting. That is, the population percentage-wise is growing slower today than in the past.
Well, it's getting better, he says. But let's listen in.
And so it will actually peak out. The problem is that the population is growing the fastest where people are less able to deal with it. So it's in the very poorest places that you're going to have a tripling in population by 2050. And so their ability to feed, educate, provide jobs, stability, protect the environment in those locations mean they're faced with an almost impossible problem.
Okay, so if we listen to what he's saying here, we're actually hearing Bill Gates saying that the problem that he sees isn't that we need to decrease the world's population, but rather the problem that he sees is that it's actually having that the population issue is in the countries that are poor, where their population is expected to triple by 2050. Okay, triple over the next 30 years, folks. And he's saying that these people are already having a hard time taking care of themselves now. And so, like, how do we deal with this? How do we help people from being their own worst enemy? Because a lot of times, folks, if you haven't noticed, people can be their own worst enemy. And so he's looking at it from a heart of care, a heart of concern. This is what I'm listening. This is what I'm hearing him say. Okay. And I'm just judging him by his own words, folks, not by this 2-second clip out of a TED Talk where he was talking about CO2 for an hour. And he just happened to drop in there something that he never gave us any further information about. But now he's actually elaborating on what he meant in that little snippet of a video. And this is the heart that we need to be listening to. If you want to judge a person's motives, then you need to listen to what their motives actually are. And so he's actually describing a care for, well, let's listen to him.
Northern Nigeria, Yemen, Chad. And so what we need to do is take this aid generosity and this innovation and go into those places, offer the women better tools where they want to space birthing or have a smaller family size, and improve
space birthing or have a smaller family size, okay?
Health, because it's amazingly, as children survive, parents feel like they'll have enough.
I actually skipped over a very important part because I was talking. Let me just go back over that.
Feel like they'll have enough kids to support them in their old age.
Whoops.
As children survive, parents feel like they'll have enough kids to support them in their old age, and so they train or have a smaller family size.
Sorry, folks. He said health. That's what I wanted to point out. Let me go back. I keep skipping over.
What we need to do is take this aid generosity and this innovation and go into those places, offer the women better tools where they want to space birthing or have a smaller family size, and improve health, because it's amazingly, as children survive, parents feel like they'll have enough kids to support them in their old age, and so they choose to have less children. Niger right now.
To improve health, folks. To improve health. Now, this is an oxymoron at face value. It makes no sense. That's why it's important to listen to him. Because you're literally saying that, in this TED Talk video, and that's why people immediately resorted to believing that he knew, that people resorted to believing that Bill Gates must have known that vaccines were dangerous, and that's why he thinks vaccines will help the world's population issue. But what he's saying is completely different. And so it actually goes against common sense. I want to actually read to you something that Bill Gates, hang on. This is very important words. Because this is what's interesting. This is Bill Gates talking about this situation in an article that I found. And I'll send you the links for the article of this as well. Bum, 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 bum. Now, one of these is a Snopes article, and I know that a lot of people don't like Snopes, but hopefully you can watch my video on when Snopes is unreliable. Wait, how did I go? Snopes is unreliable until Snopes is reliable, right? Like the devil's a liar until he tells the truth, you know? The devil is a liar. We know that biblically, but the Bible says that they were announcing who Christ was, telling the truth about his identity before anybody else was. So again, the devil's a liar until he tells the truth. Now, one of the things that this article says is this, and this is what I want to point out. This is Bill Gates' wording, or somebody writing about him, and then it includes a quote. It says, in society after society, Bill Gates saw that when the mortality rate falls, specifically below 10 deaths per 1,000 people, that the birth rate follows, that people produce less children, and the population growth stabilizes. Now, this is what I love about the quote. It goes against common sense. And see, this is where I believe people went off the deep end, hook, line, and sinker, because when they heard him say that, you know, you can help the world's population overgrowth in the poor areas, you know, that you basically are doing it. Okay, sorry, I just saw a comment that caught me off guard. So let me get back to this. And you know what? I'm actually gonna pull it up because it's just valuable. Wow, a pastor who defends Bill Gates. Unbelievable. This is what I'm talking about, folks. This is the error of our day. The error of our day. Folks, I said in the beginning of this video that I said I support everybody until they give me a reason not to support them. And people are giving me a lot of reasons why not to support Bill Gates. But as I fact check all of these reasons, I'm finding these significant loopholes in people's stories. And that's what we've been doing this whole time on this video. The problem is people like that won't listen to anything that goes against what they currently believe. When I do teachings on pride and how pride actually manifests, I always describe that pride, it works in a person's heart in a way that it actually causes them to stop anything dead in its tracks from coming in to your heart or to your mind for consideration. They won't even consider something. And the only way we can consider things is with our mind and with our heart. We have to, that's why the Bible says that love believes all things. In other words, it gives people the benefit of the doubt by default. Okay? Evil, or the demonic gift of discernment, operates as suspicion, where it gives people that they're suspicious of people by default. By default. In other words, you don't trust anybody until they prove to you their trust. Now, granted, I understand in levels of access, right? And I'm not telling anybody to go out and take Bill Gates vaccines, all right? Not at all. And that's what I stated at the beginning of this video. And it's important to understand that. And so there are levels of access. But at this moment, I don't have any reason to distrust Bill Gates' entirely. Okay? I'm still open to the fact that he could have some evil agendas through the doorway of deception. Okay? But I don't believe that Bill Gates willfully wants to kill off the masses of people through deadly vaccines, because he knows that they're deadly. And this is what people are promoting. And we still have nothing that traces back to a microchip. I forgot to bring up the ID 2020 thing. Let's go to the ID 2020 thing actually, because that is so important, okay? ID 2020. Now we're going to check this out together once again. Where is my... There it is. I've got to separate this. All right. So the ID 2020 is right here. This is the website id2020.org. This is basically what people are saying is the microchip, the mark of the beast. And, this is where the devil's going to get us, that he's going to just inject us all with the mark of the beast. And so here we go. Let's check it out, okay? Now, the ID 2020, identity is vital for political, economic, and social opportunity. But systems of identification are archaic, insecure, lack adequate privacy protection, and for over 1 billion people, inaccessible. Digital identity is being defined now, and we need to get it right. Okay, 1.1, where did it go? 1.1 billion people worldwide live without a digital ID. All right? Identity data is outside of individual control. So they're basically promoting an identity thing that is within your control, that you retain the privacy rights of that. And that's completely different. Protections for privacy are insufficient. This is their, they're talking about the reasons why they are rolling out or wanting to roll this out. So they're talking about, ensuring the protection of the data for the individuals. They want to put people in control of their own, it's completely different than what a lot of people are promoting it to be. Now, dun, 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 dun. Now, what's interesting is that nowhere on this page does it talk about a microchip. It actually talks about, where does it go? Let me see. Dun, 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 dun. Well, so here's the point. The whole idea behind it is basically, you know what? I love this. I'm not a Bill Gates fan, but I love that you sift through all the information. Exactly my point. I am not a Bill Gates fan either, but I listen to people's hearts, and I listen to their, what people are citing as their motives, and then I fact check those motives. Now, Bill Gates believes in, here we go. Who defends Bill Gates? I just came in. Good. So then you might want to watch the replay. Now, Bill Gates, all right, has done a lot of great things. Now, some people may disagree with some of the things that that people would say he's done that are great because they involve vaccinations. Some people are completely anti-vax. Some people are completely pro-vax. And then there's other people, such as myself, who believe that vaccinations can be beneficial and dangerous, just as any medicine can be beneficial and dangerous. I've seen medicine hurt people and help people. I've seen medicine save lives and kill people. So, I like to be of a much more balanced approach. And so that pertains to Bill Gates as well. And, love believes all things. It gives people the benefit of the doubt by default before it's suspicious of them by default. And so our default should be people are saying something about an individual, and we need to go after this by fact checking the details. And so we found out that people are saying Bill Gates paralyzed millions of children in India with his vaccinations. And then we have the Indian government vaccine, board of directors or whatever, stating that they're the ones that produce their own vaccines and that Bill Gates never produced them. So, that really easily debunks that whole conspiracy theory. Easily. I even read where even Ted Kennedy was citing these rumors when the Indian government themselves were saying it's not true. Like, we've got some high-level people, folks, that are recirculating these things. And listen, all you got to do is just fact check and listen to the heart of what people are saying, listen to the reasons behind it, and come to find out that their motives are completely the opposite of what people are stating. Okay? We talked about Bill Gates supposedly rolled out this coronavirus. He deployed it. And so supposedly he's supposed to be the knight in shining armor, according to conspiracy theories, that are going to release, listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. People are shocked to find out that a person, all right, who, according to his own disclosure, and I'll just read it to you actually, because it says, Bill Gates' view on childhood mortality. Bill Gates' view on childhood mortality contribution to population growth is increasingly discussed in the scientific literature and is still subject to debate. So some people may not necessarily believe that by increasing the health of these poorer nations would actually cause them to reproduce less children because they don't feel they would have the need to do so because half of their kids aren't dying. And they are, looking at it from a number standpoint, because in these poor countries, folks, these people don't have, Social Security, retirement, Medicare, all these different things that wealthier governments provide for their people. And so in those types of governments or cultures, the children grow up to take care of their parents. So the parents know that without producing enough sufficient children, they're not going to be taken care of because the mortality rate is pretty high with children and births, childbirths and stuff. So they know that they have to, kind of overproduce. It's kind of like a poverty mindset where I talk about that in another video. But now they said that his viewpoint on this situation is still up for debate in scientific literatures. But what's not up for debate are the intentions of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with regard to vaccines and population growth, as articulated by Bill and Melinda Gates in their foundation's 2017 annual letter. And that's my point. It's not up for debate what their motives are behind it because, people are coming up with these conspiracy theories by listening to that one 2-second TED Talk clip where he just brings in vaccines and proper health care in proportion to population overgrowth in the middle of a CO2 discussion that he's talking about for an hour. For an hour, he's talking about CO2, global emissions, gas emissions stuff. And it's like, and then he just throws that in there real quick and it just glances right over it. And so people have no idea what he meant by that. And because they don't research it, they automatically go to the fact that he is out to annihilate the world's population. Now, this is Melinda. Saving children's lives is the goal that launched our global work. It's an end in itself. But then we learned that it has all these other benefits as well. If parents believe their children will survive, and if they have the power to time and space their pregnancies, they choose to have fewer children. And so they're talking about, healthcare, right? They're talking about, in their mind, they believe vaccinations are helpful. And whatever your beliefs is on that, it doesn't really matter because it's what they currently believe. And some people can say, well, that's the point. Well, if that's your point, then that's fine. I can understand that argument. But that's not the point of all these conspiracy theories that are going around. The conspiracy theories that are going around are saying that they willfully know that it's evil and they want to release them to kill off the overgrowth. That is completely ridiculous. And Bill says that when a mother can choose how many children to have, her children are healthier, they're better nourished, their mental capacities are higher, and parents have more time and money to spend on each child's health and schooling. That's how families and countries get out of poverty. This link between saving lives and a lower birth rate and ending poverty was the most important early lesson Melinda and I learned about global health. Guys, listen to what they're actually saying. This is completely the opposite of what people are citing as their heart and their motives. Folks, yeah, I already talked about that. What about their pandemic exercise in October of 2019? It's called Event 201. No kidding. I already talked about that. They also had a similar one in 2018 because this is what's crazy about this, folks. People don't understand. It's like, listen, if you work at Burger King, all right, listen, guys, we've got to think about this in business terms, folks. Like, I can't believe this is it's simple. If you work at Burger King and your corporate boss sees potential in you and they want you to become the biggest burger maker in the world, they're going to send you to a conference. They're going to fly you to Las Vegas and you're going to go to the Burgathon, the Burgathon, where they teach you all about burgers. And so your life can be traced because you're in the industry of burgers. Your life is going to have connections. And if we look back later on, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, he worked with the Burgathon. Why would he have done that if he didn't have some evil agenda? Maybe because he was a burger specialist. Hello, Bill Gates is like his whole he funds and pours into because his goal and his intent. And so he was basically painting a picture of a mock scenario. And we talked about this earlier, where he even used coronavirus as the example. And so why is that crazy to some people? Because they're just now hearing the term coronavirus. But what they don't know is this. Coronavirus is a word that refers to a whole family of viruses, including, folks, strains that caused the SARS outbreak in 2003 and the MERS outbreak in 2013 and the current COVID outbreak of 2019-2020. So this is not a new thing, folks. The problem is because people, that's why I said on my Facebook yesterday, you got a bunch of hourly employees trying to tell the government how to do their job because they Googled a matter. Are you kidding? You can't run a country by Google. You have no idea what's going on up there, y'all. But you want to act like you do. I'm not even going to go into that, Norks Doopster. The 5G, the 5G is causing the coronavirus. I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going to go there. I'm telling you, we've got to stay on planet Earth to a degree, folks. We've just got to stay on planet Earth. I mean, that is way too much. We're trying to, wow. Okay. So for the sake of evaluation, I brought this video to light because I wanted to go over some things. I wanted to walk with people through some things. I think it's very important that we understand, number one, Bill Gates and his, potential capabilities are still up in the air because there's a number of things that I don't agree with. Number one, he's pro-abortion. Okay. I don't know how he feels objectively about vaccination dangers. So those are two things that are still up in the air. And so then you have, does he have the potential to cause harm? I could say yes, he still has the potential. Anybody has the potential because I don't really know enough about them or where they stand on a matter. But let me tell you this. For somebody who they say had a global agenda to release this outbreak, they created it, they patented it. We talked about all those things early on in the video. Watch the video if you missed all that. Then if he staged this, then why is he wanting to wait a year and a half before he says he would be comfortable with releasing a vaccination? You've got Israel and even American government saying they can have a vaccine ready in as early as 90 days. You would think if you have Dr. Evil behind the scenes, aka Bill Gates, working to have deployed this whole thing, staged this whole thing, why would he want everybody else to cut in on his game? This makes no sense, folks. And then people don't see the error of their theories. You're saying he staged it. You're citing that he patented, which he didn't because we debunked that. You're saying that, he tried to warn everybody early on, and that's the reason why now we know it was him. And so, great. Let's just say all of those things are true. And where the heck is he now? In saying that he wants to wait 18 months before they release any vaccination because he wants to make sure that it's safe. That's what he said in the video. In fact, folks, whoops. I've never done that before. I'm glad I was still there. All right. So here's the deal. We forgot to listen to that part as well. And so let's go back and listen to that. All right. We're going to go to a conversation with Bill Gates. Here we go. We'll finish it.
But still 7 children per family, whereas in the richer countries, you're often at a stable point of which is 2.1 or even less. And so it's really an acute problem in a certain number of places, and we've got to make sure that we help out with the tools now so that they don't have an impossible situation later.
Oh, that's not it. Shoot. Where was that video? It was in a recent video. Oh, that's the one that it was. Where that's another thing I forgot to address. People also were saying that Bill Gates, let me see if I have that pulled up. Yep, I do. Awesome. Bill Gates said, this is another conspiracy theory that I forgot to debunk, or at least share with you so that we could all listen to it together.
Let's go to a couple questions that we've actually...
Wait a minute. That's not the right one. Ah. Let me just pull it up. Bill Gates said he wants everyone on lockdown for 18 months. All right, this is what the main claim is. I'm hoping. Yeah, this has got to be the one. So he didn't actually...
I want to play a clip for you that's been viewed more than 26 million times.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes.
That was Bill Gates back in 2015, 5 years ago, warning about precisely the kind of threat we're all facing right now. Since then, Gates has been doing everything he can to prevent a pandemic. 2 months ago, the Gates Foundation committed $100 million to fight the coronavirus. Earlier, I sat down with Bill Gates to discuss what we need to do now.
All right, here we go.
Bill, it took 4 months to reach 500,000 cases around the world and just 7 days to add another 500,000 cases. So how dangerous, how fearsome is this virus? And how do you see this epidemic playing out in the U.S.?
Well, this is a nightmare scenario because human-to-human transmissible respiratory viruses can grow exponentially. And, you know, if we had kept on going to work, traveling like we were, you know, that curve would never bend until you had the majority of the people infected and then a massive number seeking hospital care and lots of deaths. So, you know, we've had to use quarantine, which is a, you know, old thing back from the days of the plague, as our primary tool. Fortunately, if we use that well enough, we should, towards the end of this month, start to see those numbers level off.
That's not the video, apparently, and I don't know why. I just cannot get my screen to share right now. It got froze. I couldn't share it with you, but there's a video where he says, you know, where he's talking about vaccinations, and he's basically saying that, you know, in order to, you know, basically safely, you know, gather publicly, so long as the virus is around, basically, that's my paraphrase, you know, we would need a vaccination to protect the people, you know, from public gathering. But we won't be, you know, having such a thing for at least 18 months because of the fact that we want to be sure that it is safe. And so people are saying that Bill Gates was saying that he wants us locked down for 18 months. That's not what he was saying. Now, granted, from the other side of the coin, what he was saying was that it was going to take 18 months to create a vaccine. And according to somebody, you know, he's not handling other sides of the coin. He's just dealing with his side of the coin, which is, in his mind and in his heart, vaccines are the answers. And, you know, yes, he talked about this in a mock, you know, scenario a while ago. And, you know, it's because what if he was actually right? And that's my point, you know, like, what if you are the Burger King employee and you go to the burger-thon in Las Vegas because your corporate boss sends you there and he wants you to know all about burgers, and you become, really well informed about burgers. And then so all of a sudden you have a burger outbreak, and you're like trying to inform people about the right kind of burger, the wrong kind of burger, and all these different things. It's not far-fetched to be able to trace your steps, that you had connections where you worked at Burger King, but now you have ties to the Burger-thon, that event that was held in Las Vegas to teach people more about burgers. And see, they're looking at Bill Gates' connections as if it's some sort of confirmation of the conspiracy theory. But if he works in those fields, it's not suspect that he would have these relationships with all these different agencies and departments. It's actually part of the job. Anybody who wants to be a professional in their area of influence, or, would naturally have more connections. And so I haven't drunk the Kool-Aid here, folks. And, some people would say I probably have, because they can't believe that I'm not just hook, line, and sinker on this big, gigantic conspiracy theory. Do I believe there's corruption at play in certain areas of, absolutely. I believe politically there is. I believe pharmaceutically there is. I believe that, yes, there are. But what if, anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. But man, we walked through some interesting things today, folks. We walked through Bill Gates, the claims that he wanted every human on 18-month lockdown. That's not what he was referencing when he mentioned the 18 months. He was referencing the testing for the vaccine to make sure it's safe, which, completely debunks even other conspiracy theories. Bill Gates says he wants to depopulate the world through vaccines because he knows they're evil and they kill people. That's been debunked. But John, Bill Gates is pro-abortion. Yeah, that has nothing to do with this current topic of discussion. And yes, it's bad. That's the point of not being able to not having to jumble everything together. John, Bill Gates staged or created the virus with the intent to be in position to release his global agenda. Well, he's failing miserably, folks, because if he created this thing with the intent to be in position to release his global agenda, why would he want to wait 18 months to release it? And why doesn't he have the vaccine already created to be the saving grace for humanity? It doesn't make sense. A guy who set all of this up so that he would be the evil mastermind that would be in position to control the world. You would think, folks, that the vaccine would already be there and that he would be coming out with it and saying, wow, we've never been able to create a vaccine this fast. This is record time, folks. And look, it's flawless. And look, it is perfect. And look, none of that is happening, folks. Why isn't it happening? Well, because it doesn't add up, folks. Another one, Bill Gates created the coronavirus and it is patented by him. Not true. Not even true. Research it. I included in the comments the links for you to do so. Bill Gates predicted the coronavirus outbreak in a mock staged example. Well, we just watched that, where he did actually warn people that this would be a coming problem in the coming years. And guess what? He was right. Does that make him guilty? Not necessarily. And they're wondering why he used the coronavirus as an example. And it's because they don't know that there's been many coronavirus outbreaks, even in recent years. 2003 was the SARS outbreak, which was a coronavirus. And 2013, the MERS outbreak, which was a coronavirus. It is not far-fetched to believe that he would have used that as an example with the recent actual realities that we've been faced with. It's crazy, guys. Then you've got the people saying that Bill Gates paralyzed millions of children in India with his vaccines. And even the Prime Minister of India severed ties with him personally because of the destruction that he caused. And folks, America is next. Well, we read the article from India itself, an Indian article in indiatoday.in, indiatoday.in, which is an Indian magazine or newsletter or whatever. And it specifically said that the Prime Minister, or actually, it says that that they were shocked to hear of these conspiracy theories when they came out, and that Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has no connection with any of the vaccines that are being produced in India. That India produced their own vaccines, created their own vaccines, and that Bill Gates never even funded any of their vaccines. Folks, from the horse's mouth, the country representatives themselves, stating that we can tell you firsthand as the Indian government that Bill Gates was not responsible for any of the vaccines that were released in this country. Folks, it is not far-fetched to realize that Bill Gates has ties with vaccine companies, because if you knew what his motives were in his heart, it was actually to save lives, and he believes that they save lives. And whatever you think about vaccines is irrelevant, because at least to him, he believes that they save lives. Many people do. I found substantial articles. I even watched a gentleman sent me, the guy that wrote Tim Bollinger, the guy that did the video called The Truth About Cancer. He also did a video about the truth about vaccines. And he comes at a very balanced approach in his video where people are like, vaccines have saved a lot of lives, and they've also harmed a lot of lives. And so, they say to be pro-vax or anti-vax is not a healthy balance, but to understand the realities of both sides of the spectrum. I share a recent testimony about a pastor friend of mine who decided to go to Nigeria one year and just trust God to be protected against malaria. And he ended up getting malaria. He did not take the vaccine that trip, which he was taking frequently. And he almost died. And so that vaccine for malaria was actually keeping him safe in all those trips prior. And the one time he didn't take it, it actually almost killed him. He said he jacked up so much hospital bills. His wife, basically told him after it was all said and done, so you're not going to do that again, are you? And he's like, no, I'm not. We just got to have such a more balanced approach to these things, folks, and be able to objectively weigh these things. So anyway, I hope you go back and watch some of this. We cover a lot of interesting things and very important. Thanks.